Stu H on the forums, trying to get the BrewDevil in. Stu H on the forums, I've just installed the sight glass kit on that I ordered from Angel Homebrewing. Actually, I kind of went another way. I managed to get hold of this stainless steel elbow because what I was kind of finding that the tap kit plus the elbow kind of stuck out of the unit quite a lot. So what I did was buy a 90-degree stainless steel elbow. What I'm probably going to do is buy another 45 and fit it here, and that will just turn that tap into there. It'll keep everything sort of snug and curved around the unit then. Put a quick release fitting on here. I'm literally just starting the first water test. As you can see, hopefully, you know, just going up and down there, you've got the water appearing in the sight glass. So far, no leaks. So I'm going to carry on filling the unit, and then I'm going to have, you know, just fill it all the way up. Open the tap, hold this fitting above, make sure that none of the fittings on the end are leaking the other side of the tap as well, because obviously you can have quite a lot of pressure in there, especially if you're pumping it. So I just want to make sure that it's, you know, it's sealed all the way to the end. I used PTFE tape on all the fittings. This is completely inert. I tend to avoid things like plumber's mate, especially. They're not food safe, whereas this stuff is. I used a sort of combination of female to female, male to males, you know, to build this unit up. There are a couple of washers in there in places, but yeah, so far so good. I'm going to carry on filling the unit. Probably going to speed this bit up if you don't really want to watch it. And once I've actually done a water test on the unit and I'm happy and it's not leaking, then I will probably just flush the unit into another bucket, and then I will refill the unit to mark it up for the gradation. So, but I don't want to do that if I'm going to take the unit apart. So the one thing I have noticed actually is that for a couple of the guys I've spotted on the Facebook group who like to boil to the rim, that sight glass isn't probably going to allow you to boil to the rim. It's probably a centimetre below the top. Just I guess bear that in mind if you are one of these guys who likes to start your boil at 52 litres. We're almost there now actually. It's amazing how quickly that's filled. Bits of polystyrene. I don't want those to go in there anywhere. They shouldn't. So far so good. Don't see any leaks. Nothing coming from behind the jacket. Nothing coming from around the tap. Actually, I think there may be a tiny leak on the sight glass. I didn't want to over tighten the sight glass for obvious reasons because it's acrylic. Oh, here we go. There we go. I just joined the 52 litre club. Bang on. Only a little bit of overshoot there. It literally is sitting on the top. Cautiously take that out. Okay, so that's interesting. If for some reason when you're pumping it out, rather than stop it at the tap, let's have a look at that again. It drops as it's flowing, but as you come back up, Okay, so might have to consider how I'm going to approach that, because if you suddenly have to turn the tap off when the unit's particularly full, you're going to get an overshoot there. Okay, so you can combat that by more gracefully turning the unit off. So yeah, kind of top tip sight glass. Once you put the sight glass on, you're going to have to, when you're turning the unit on and off, you're going to have to bring it to a slightly more graceful stop. If you quickly turn the tap off, you're going to get an overrun, and you don't want hot water getting thrown all down the front of the unit. So hopefully you can see this, but as I'm turning that off, obviously it's rising back up. The faster I do that, if I do that fast enough, even with it now probably having 45 litres in, it's going to shoot up over the top of the sight glass and run down. So you are going to have to, when you operate the sight glass, just make sure that you turn it off slowly. So I'm just going to let that sit for a little while. It's obviously a bit of a challenge now, so now I've got water everywhere to make sure that it's not leaking. I'm just going to move the unit around onto a dry bit. And that should, there we go, everything's dry there. Dry everything off. I'm just going to let the unit stand for a little while. Might run it up to temperature. Chances are though, as you're running it up to temperature, everything's going to expand anyway, and it's unlikely to leak. Yep, it looks good. Either it's sweating out of there a little bit, whether it's coming out of where the acrylic goes in. It may have just been some of the liquid that overran over the top. What I'll do is probably get some very, very dry tissue, dry that off properly, come back in a little while and just dab the tissue on, and you should be able to see if it's got wet again. Okay, so let this stand for a while. It's got about 44 litres in there at the moment. We'll see how that goes, and I'll talk to you in a bit. Hi there, so we've actually just refilled the unit for the second time. There was definitely a leak around the top where the acrylic section joined the stainless steel fitting. I was being very, very cautious with that because obviously acrylic thread versus stainless steel thread, the acrylic will lose, and I'd have to get another piece. So I took that back off, just added some more PTFE and just cautiously wound it back in until it was just over, I guess, it was hand tight, right? But it's what I would consider, ooh, I'm about there. So far, it's looking good. You can normally see if you've got dry hands just by wiping your fingers around the fittings, if you've got any moisture there. You can do the same with a bit of tissue, of course. So I think I'm just going to let that rest for a minute, see what happens. Jacket's a little damp where I turned it off on the previous thing, and it came out the top of the sight glass. I have seen other sight glasses that have like a little piece of plastic with a very small hole in the top, and I'm wondering whether that's there to control that kind of rapid change. This one didn't come with it, but I've probably got something laying around, so I'll test that, see if that's something worth doing. So yeah, refill for the second time. Now we're just literally a bit of a waiting game, see if anything sweats out of any of the joints. I have a feeling that that fitting there, where the fitting for the stainless steel plug that goes in there, feeling that sweating slightly. Now I can tighten that in place and see if it improves things, but for the moment I'm just going to leave that as is. I'll open take the by just holding the hose up, opening the tap. Obviously that's now going to flood the entire thing. So we've got water in the pipe up to the same height as it is in the unit, and I'll just drop it in. That means that the whole thing now is all the way to the end of the tap has got the same sort of, I don't know what 1 metre of pressure on it. I'll leave that now and come back in a while and see if that's improved things, or if I've got to give the fittings a tweak. annoyingly, normally it'll be that fitting. That's the one that's going to probably let go. It's okay at the moment, but that'll be the most annoying one to do. All the others are fairly easy to tighten and retighten, but that one I've got to take everything off to do it. But yeah, it's a waiting game now. So yeah, I'll be back in a bit. Cheers. Okay, so it's been standing now for about 40 minutes. I don't know if you can see, I'm just trying to get it focused, but I mean it's looking good. There, you know, there's no leaks, no moisture sweating out of anywhere I can see. Nothing, you know, there's nothing dripped down on the desk, so that's looking pretty good. Hopefully you can see the level, it's here. So yeah, no, all in, pretty pleased with that. After having a bit of a debacle this morning, but with some fittings, so, and ended up having to get some more, but that ended up meaning I could get the elbow. So I am going to probably order a 45, like I said, and then I can just sort of sweep this this direction across the front of the unit, and the tap will go on here. It'll just make it a bit neater. It'll sit nicely in its own footprint then. So yeah, looking good. Right, so I'm just going to set the sight glass up now that we know nothing's leaking. I'll set the sight glass up with my trusty and faithful 5-litre jug. So I'll have to check what the grading stickers are, but I guess I'll be sticking as many gradings in as I can. What I will do is capture the dead space under the malt pipe, because I've seen a few people discussing that recently, so I'll work out exactly what that is with the malt pipe in the unit. That's something that I am going to sort of test actually, is malt pipe in, malt pipe out. How does that affect the literage? Reading, I doubt it's going to be by much, but I think it's worth maybe understanding that with the malt pipe in, you're going to be reading slightly, probably slightly over, right? And then by the time you've removed the unit, you're going to be slightly under. Hi there. Just sort of drain the second lot out. Definitely happy now that there are no leaks on the unit. As I said, I'm probably going to get a 45, turn it in. I may have a look at spot welding a bracket to the outside of the unit. Potentially, I'm having a think about how I secure this, because I don't want to knock it. But that's something I'm going to have a think about. So I'm happy that the unit's dry. I've drained the unit out completely again, and I fitted the malt pipe with the bottom screen, and I've filled the unit till the water has literally just come over with the bottom screen in it, sort of convexed with a bulge up. I've filled the water till it's just meeting the top convex bit of the screen. It's come up above the lip. So what I'm going to do now is drain that out. That will tell me what my dead space in the bottom of the unit is. I'm going to use my Old Faithful for that. So that will give us a really good accurate measurement of what's in the dead space in the unit. I mean, I could turn the pump on and try and fill the pump, but I think for the most part the pump's going to have liquid in it, etc. So I'll share the dead space reading, because that's super useful if you're doing any kind of calculation for brewing software, or if you're doing your deads. If you've got a recipe that tells you to mash in with say 10 litres, I would say you're going to want to add the dead space plus 10 litres, because 10 litres would normally be if you were mashing in the bottom of a pot with no dead space, right? If you were using a gas boiler, or you were mashing in an esky or something like that. So there's very little dead space in those. So yeah, I'll come back to you in a minute once I've slowly filled this. And yeah, okay, cool. Okay, so we've got a 5 litres and just above 3 litres. That's with the malt pipe in. So I would say 5, 6, 7. I would say there's 8 litres. Aim for 8 litres. That's what's in the dead space below the malt pipe. So just factor that into your calculations. So hopefully that's helpful. Next thing I'm going to do is very slowly, very accurately fill the unit 5 litres at a time. I'm going to mark up the side pipe as I go. Alright, thanks. Okay, so I've just done the dead space below the tap. I put 5 litres in the jug, put it in the unit, open the tap and just let it drain till it stopped running. There was 2.4 litres in the jug, so obviously that means it was 2.6. In the kettle I think it's probably best to aim at about 2.5, so I guess that would be your vestiges. You know, that's going to be all your protein, bits of grain, etc. You know, that you're going to leave behind when you go to the fermenter. So yeah, I think that's the sort of vestiges dead space below the tap. It was 8 in terms of dead space below the malt pipe, and should we say 2.5 dead space below the tap. So hopefully you could just take those numbers and plug them into whatever brewing software you're using, and that will give you an idea of your losses or what you need to add when you're mashing to make up the volume. Okay, so the next step I'm going to do is to just keep going 5 litres, 5 litres, 5 litres, and I'll mark up the sight glass as I go. I'm not going to record that. It's a long, very slow process of making sure the water settles properly, etc. So I'll probably come back at the end and just maybe comment on how the knockouts or the graded scale on the inside related to what I was seeing in the sight glass and what the jug was telling me. So, okay, I'll see you in a minute. Hi there, so we're currently up to 40 litres. And actually I've got to say, I'll show you this, just give me a second, flick you around. Okay. So hopefully you can see that it's currently up to 40 litres. And actually when you go into the tank, I'm hoping you can see that, it's actually pretty good. It's been running just ahead of all the marks, but it's just ahead of the 40. The 40 line is just submerged. But actually it's pretty good, you know, and I've been using a decent gradiated scale jug, so yeah, pretty good, pretty happy with that. Just at the 40 on, going to do the 40 to 45. I will give you a double check on the full volume of the unit. I suspect it will be 50, 52 like the manual says, but I'll double check that and make that part of the video. Okay, yeah. And there it is up at the 45 litre. So as you can see, actually it's pretty good. I think it was the fuller it's got, the more accurate it's got, if that makes sense. So lower down it was quite a way over, say the 15 was probably the width of the line again over the line, if that makes sense, so over the bulge. But actually getting near the top, it's very, very close indeed. So I'm just going to put the last marker on. Just going to put the last 50 litres in, and then the last last 5 litres in, and then the 50 litre marker on. But there you go, that's a gradiated scale. Cool. Okay, so there is the final 5 litres in. That takes us to 50. Hopefully you can see that okay. That actually pretty much takes us to those stoppers that the malt pipe sits on. So that's 50 litres there. I think, to be honest, that's about as brave as I'd get. I will fill whatever the last little drips and drabs into the unit is, so that I can give you an accurate full volume for it. But yeah, I think 50 is as brave as I'd get. I haven't worked out quite how you deal with a hot break on this unit. On my other boiler, I would just obviously turn the unit off. Some people use a spray, but I just used to turn it off, and that would stop the hot break, and then you just power it back up again. I suspect probably on the controller that you just probably hit pause. If you hit pause, it should knock the power out. I'll check that out, and I'll include that in a later video. But yeah, so I'm going to squeeze the last few drops in this and get a full volume number. Okay. Okay, so that was 1 more litre. I think that might be as far as I will go. As you can see, actually looking at that, the unit is leaning that way slightly. So actually, if it was tipped back, I think if it was tipped back in that direction, I think that gradiated scale would be pretty much bang on. So yeah, that's actually pretty impressive that that's so accurate. You see the top of the it literally goes to the top of the sight glass. I didn't get any overrun from the sight glass, but it is absolutely full to the brim. So yeah, there you have it, 51 litres. Okay, I'm going to finish the video here, tidy up the mess I've made, and yeah, I'll get to whirlpooling and doing some other testing, do a test run with the heaters, etc. Yeah, cool. Hopefully this was helpful. So yeah.